What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down advice that every wide receiver needs to hear. So I hope this video helps you guys out. I hope it teaches you a few new things about route running, press releases, and how you guys can become a more efficient wide receiver. But also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you struggle with, knowing what release to choose when you come off the line, knowing the situation to choose it, maybe with the technique on it, check out that very first link in the description below for a 50-minute long video on 20 different press releases, when to use them, and then drills to work on each one. So we break down every single press release that you can think of. We talk about the exact game situation to use it. We show a game live example and then drills to work on it. So check out that very first link below if interested, fellas. Let's get started with this video. So this first route here is not the best route. This is the first thing that I think all wide receivers need to try to avoid when it comes to routes. To avoid this from happening, DBs being in tight coverage and having no separation, is indicators. So what are indicators? An indicator is exactly like it sounds. You're indicating to the DB that you are going to be making a break. So indicators can come from a couple different things. There are three things that I like to key in on when we talk about this, and that is speed, that is stride, and that is body language. In this case, it's kind of a little bit of both, or a little bit of two of those. So when this wide receiver comes off, he's running this 5-yard hitch. Where is the DB supposed to be watching in man coverage? He's supposed to be watching his hips. And after this also, fellas, we're going to be showing a good example of this so you guys can kind of have the two to pick from and to choose from. So just bear with me on this. So when we're about to break on this 5-yard hitch, we have to make sure that we are selling what? Selling fade, right? If you don't sell fade, that is the indicator to the DB. So we're attacking his outside shoulder. We're trying to get him to open up. And like I said, where are his eyes supposed to be? Hips. So when you give an indicator with your body language, that's the most obvious one. A DB is trying to read your speed and he is trying to read your body language. So when this wide receiver is about to make this break, he reaches out for this thing, right? So he reaches for the cut. And how we know that he's reaching outside of his frame is because look what strikes the ground first, his heel. He's hitting the ground heel, then toe. That's how we know that this cut is outside of his frame. Now, the reach is not the thing that's going to give the route away, because he's not looking at your feet. When you reach, naturally what happens with your upper body? It raises up. You see how he's got a good pad level, and then that number 7 starts to point straight up in the air. That is what we call an indicator. And now the other thing that he does that a lot of wide receivers do is that they throw this hand up in the air. So when they reach out for this cut, they try to snap down, they throw the hand up. You're letting everybody in that stadium know that you were making a break. And that is what gives this DB time to react. The second he sees that indicator, he can sit on this route and he can stop this route. Now, granted, I think this throw was extremely late. I don't know why they would be having the quarterback take a 3-step drop and a hitch and throw a 5-yard hitch route. That doesn't make any sense at all, unless it's maybe like a backside read. I can't even see that happening. But still, we didn't have separation. Even if the ball would have been on time, this DB is still right there in a position to make this play happen. And that is it's kind of a longer throw for the QB. We have to do a better job as a wide receiver of selling fade and dropping on a dime, on a single step when I get to the yardage of the break. And that's what we're going to be looking at now. So let's play this thing full speed. So fellas, on every single route, we want to try to avoid the indicator as much as possible. Don't raise the pad level up. Don't reach out of your frame because that will cause the body language change. Don't chop your feet and don't slow the speed. Let's play this full speed again. Again, I thought he did the right thing. Tack the DB's leverage, just way too much of an indicator before that break, and that will give that route away. So now let's take a look at this wide receiver. He's going to be running a similar type of break. It's more of like a hook over the middle of the field, but he's still having to drop his hips and he's still trying to sell deep. He's still trying to sell a deeper route. So let's play this thing full speed. So he comes off the ball, no indicator. There's no swing of his hands. It's just a drop of his hips. That is what we need every single time I run a route, fellas. From a 5-yard hitch to a 15-yard comeback, this should be my mindset. So you see when he comes off the ball, no indicators, right? Good pad level, good speed, good stride. Very similar to the last wide receiver, but the break point is what will separate, a great wide receiver, or I shouldn't say a great wide receiver, because they're all playing in the league. They're all very, very talented wide receivers. Let's put it this way. A great route runner from a good route runner. So when he's about to make this break, you see there's no change in pad level. That drop, where does he strike the ground? He strikes the ground on the middle part of his foot because he's not reaching outside of his frame. He's just dropping in stride. He's violent with his hips. He's bringing his chin to his knee. It is a level change. I think of it like he's got a string attached to his chin and somebody pulled the string straight down to his knee. But it happens in stride. There's no indicator. You see how he's not popping the pad level up. He's not raising his hand way up in the air. Those are the things that a DB is looking for, fellas. You got to understand it. DB is the second hardest position in all of sports, in my opinion. I think quarterback is first, so I think two football positions. I give DBs a ton of credit, especially a talented DB, because it is so dang hard to guess every single snap and be able to make a play on the ball. They are some of the best body language readers in the world because they're looking for any kind of change that we give them to make a play. But if we don't give them that change, they have no way of winning on the route if we do everything correctly. If we can self-fade, if we can drop on a dime, and if we can get out of the break fast, like let's say, for example, it was a comeback and he had to run out of the break. If you cover all three of those phases of the route, selling, break point, accelerating, the DB has no choice but to lose if we do everything correctly. That's why the details are so important as a wide receiver, because when we do things correctly and we can execute, that's how we get space. But giving an indicator, giving the route away is what we do not want to do. Now, why do wide receivers do that? Why do wide receivers slow? Because a big one for younger guys is right before the break point, they'll start to slow down. And they slow down because it's easier. It's easier to make a cut when you're not running hard. It's easier to make a cut when you're not in full stride and you can take choppy steps. But that doesn't mean you're selling the route. And a lot of times, guys, what they'll do is they'll be running up into this break and they're so concerned with steps. Like, let's count the steps this wide receiver takes. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's out of this thing in 5 steps. So many wide receivers are so concerned with steps and they think, oh, I got to get out of the break in 2 steps, 3 steps, 1 step, that they slow way down because they don't have the ability to get out in 3 steps while running full speed. And then when you slow down, guess what? This DB, it's a lot easier for him to get out of the break too because he's not running full speed. So fellas, to get separation, to be a good route runner, whether it's a post route or whether you got to snap down and run a curl, you have to make sure that we are not giving away the route. No indicators. Indicators is something you should always be trying to eliminate. You're doing drill work. You're doing routes versus air. You're running routes against a DB. Indicators is what we need to avoid. If you guys can do that, especially at a younger level, youth ball, high school ball, you will get separation and you will be a good route runner. The DBs are not that talented at that level. So if you can master this, you will stand out. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Then we're going to talk about a press release from Julian Edelman and what you guys can think of on that. So I say this all the time. When you want to try to get separation from a DB, I'm going to play this thing one more time. You want to step outside of his frame because that's the only way to get him to move. Now, wide receivers will take that very literally, right? I see this a lot at the camps that we do, at the training sessions we do. I say it, like, hey, you got to step outside his frame. You got to threaten him vertical. And I think everybody understands what that means because when you come off the line, you see it all the time. You see receiver coaches teaching all these like choppy steps right here. They teach you a lot of head and shoulder movement. Just move as fast as you can with your head and your shoulders. That is not going to work against a disciplined DB. A DB who knows what he's doing, knows what to look at, which is your hips, your body language. He is not going to bite on something like that. You have to step outside of his frame to get him to move. You have to step with your hips and your shoulder. You have to bring your hips and your shoulders with the step as well. And that is what I want to cover. That is the advice that I think wide receivers need to hear. When you make a cut, your upper body is attached to the cut. A lot of people teach those short, choppy, crappy steps because they don't want wide receivers to step super far and to be off balance. And that's fair. You don't want to be off balance, but you bring your upper half with the cut, and that is where your balance comes from. So think of it like this. Your hip is attached to your foot. You see how Edelman, when he throws this cut, his hip is attached to his foot. The upper body goes with the cut. You want to think of releases like pretend like you're standing on one foot and you're trying to jump as far as you can to your left. If you were to do that, you wouldn't land with your foot super wide. You would bring your upper body with yourself. Like you would land and you would try to have that foot inside your frame. Same thing with the release. We want to try to sell it as best I can, but I want that foot to be somewhat inside my frame. It could be a little bit outside your frame, but I want to bring the upper half. Hip is attached to the foot because that is where my balance and my explosive position is. But also, I am selling it because that's where the DB is looking. So make sure, fellas, anytime I'm deciding to go with the release, anytime I'm making a cut at the top of the break, you have to make sure that your hip, your upper body is attached with the foot to sell the route. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Edelman getting that DB off the platform and then being able to win on that quick out. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. We always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys as usual. And again, fellas, if you'd like a 50-minute long video on 20 different press releases, when to use each one, and then drills to work on each one with game examples, check out that very first link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time.